and welcome to Not One Right Way, the podcast. It's your host, Melissa Manuel, she or her, back again with Marv.
Hello, Marv, Rumadawagin Yaga, they, them, theirs pronouns.
And we're here with another special guest. But before we get into that, Marv, I wanted to ask, what are you watching this week? What have you been watching? Yeah, what have you been consuming?
Oh, this is embarrassing. Actually, My Hero Academia.
Oh, that is embarrassing. You could have kept that an inside thought.
I feel like it'll come out some way. I do watch my anime, and sometimes it's anime for little boys. How it is.
How much My Hero Academia have you watched so far?
I'm fully caught up with the episodes that are currently being released.
Oh, I don't actually know how much My Hero Academia there is. Okay, that's a lot.
Like 160 episodes.
That's impressive. So, thoughts so far? Don't say anything that make the boys mean to you, but
you know, in the later seasons, the edginess I'm kind of into, but that's because I love a good, what's it called? Like political intrigue. I love that shit. I did not expect it to find it in this show.
Okay, I wasn't expecting that answer. I don't know what happens in that show, but maybe I'll add it to my list someday. I just walked away from watching what's it called? Murders Only in the Building. So that's one of the many things I'm watching right now. I'm watching too many things, but I'll only say that for this week. And every week I watch that show, I'm like, I think I know who the murderer is. I don't. I'm really bad at solving murders. I fall for all the red herrings, and it's embarrassing. But I enjoy the watching experience. Like Martin Short and Steve Martin belong together, and they're in love, but like not romantically, in a super platonic, beautiful way. That's
in a divorced way, I would say.
In a divorced way, yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Thank you for sharing. But now, let's talk about someone even cooler than Steve Martin and Martin Short. Our special guest, Alex Grauke. Alex Grauke is a producer in the gaming industry. That's how we met. He's got lots of experience beyond that. I know you started in HR and worked your way up, but you worked on games like Call of Duty. You were in the audio department. You were in, I don't even know, you touched a lot of different departments, and it was not easy. So I'm very excited to have you on. And everyone, welcome Alex.
Hello. I just want to say I think I'm like 30 episodes in My Hero Academia, so I'm on the same path. I don't know if I would call it a little boy show. There's some it's like a little, I mean, okay,
it's for big boys too.
It's for big boys too. But I'm so happy to be here and hang out with you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, happy to have you.
What's that?
We're happy to have you.
Oh, awesome.
We want to start off with the hard questions.
Oh, yay.
Marv.
So my background, I don't know if you know this, I'm a social worker. I really get deep into it with people right off the bat. That's what I'm used to.
Let's do it.
That's what we're doing today. First question, favorite mixed drink?
Favorite mixed drink? oh God. Anything that doesn't have my kids spit in it at this point. No, mixed drink. I don't think I've had like an alcoholic mixed drink since college. Otherwise, it's like Pedialyte and water. That's my choice of mixed drinks in my household, just to try to keep myself from being sick constantly.
Also a valid answer, you know? Whatever keeps you going.
It's a different time for me now, being a dad.
What are your thoughts on grape Pedialyte?
Okay, so fun fact, I drink the grape Pedialyte more, I think, and I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure my wife likes the other flavors more. So I end up with the grape ones more than her. So she'll go through and like pick the other flavors out of the box.
Is this a controversial topic? Pedialyte flavors?
I mean, grape flavor is usually the best flavor with any sort of powdered drink. that requires water of some sort. I mean, it's all, elephant in the room, Kool-Aid. Purple is the best flavor. So, just saying.
Yeah. I know for some people, grape is controversial. Yeah.
I don't know anything about Pedialyte except the one time I had it, I was like, this is gross. And I was super hungover. I was super hungover, so everything tasted gross.
Gross. It's the best thing you could, especially when you're hungover. You should IV that stuff straight into you at that point. I'm gonna save you. Gross. Oh my goodness.
Maybe I'm the controversial one.
You are, well, that par of the course for sure. Par of the course.
Yeah.
I would love to know, Alex, what your favorite movie or TV show is.
Favorite movie or TV show? Movie. How do I do this? I mean, if I'm going animated movie right now, it'd probably be Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I mean, we've talked about this, but there's that animation style, whether it's Spider-Verse or if it's Puss in Boots Last Wish, right?
Mm.
That animation style, I am a avid, huge fan of, where it's like that smooth but stretched out kind of fighting sequence. But Spider-Verse in general, I think they actually did justice to the actual comic book line of Miles Morales. And I don't know, it didn't feel forced. It felt like a good storyline. You could really get into it without feeling like they're like forcing you to like something. And obviously, with controversy aside, with the, what's going on with the actual animation studios behind creating the movies, it's definitely my favorite right now. TV show would be Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I'm just gonna go straight to that. Brooklyn Nine-Nine is hands down just solid gold comedy at any standard. It's just perfect. So
both excellent choices.
thank you.
Both in my top. I know Marv and I, we watched a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine together, so that has a special place in my heart for that reason.
It's a shame they had to kind of force the show to wrap up probably faster than they wanted to. Because like the last season was good, but you could tell they were like, quick, we got to wrap up this storyline and then this storyline and then this storyline. Could have definitely been spaced out like 2 seasons. But I understand it was, during COVID, it was a rough time for any production, to occur. But overall, I mean, still hands down, just amazing show.
I feel like with Halloween season coming up, the Halloween heist, that's what I would rewatch right now.
My wife was literally watching, I think it was the second Halloween heist last night on, because it's on Netflix right now, I believe. So, yeah.
I love the Halloween heist. I'm a big sitcom person. And if I were still in college, I'd probably write a paper about how sitcoms honor each other. And to me, the heists are like a callback to Communities, like the Paintball Wars. And other sitcoms do similar things where they have just this special episode they do once a year that's an elaborate event surrounding some sort of holiday or it's just bigger production and it's very special to the show. And that's what the heists always mean to me and or make me think of. So I love that like communication between sitcoms and the comedians writing.
Well, and that's think about the writers and what they were probably influenced by with shows like The Community and stuff like that. Like I don't know the cast and the crew that wrote the show, but I can almost guarantee that like there's probably a majority of them that worked on shows like Community before they came over to Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they're all like, we gotta do something like Paintball, but totally different.
It always hits. Why don't you tell us about where you grew up? How did you
how that became me?
Yeah. How you became Alex?
Well, I grew up in the beautiful Golden State of California. Born and raised in the Bay Area, proudly. My mom was born and raised in Burlingame. She was the 8 of 8 kids. So she learned how to be pretty independent early on from that stage. And by the time she turned 18, she headed off and went on an adventure and traveled the U.S. twice, actually. Eventually went to college at Temple University, Pennsylvania, lived in North Carolina for a bit, and moved back to California, where she met a rugged, good-looking young man that happened to be my father, who was originally from Germany. My father was born and raised in Germany, served in the military for a couple of years, and then decided he really enjoyed food in general, making food, and got an apprenticeship in baking and found out he was really good at it. He eventually went on to get his master's in pastry chef and saw a newspaper ad one day. No joke. A guy from Palo Alto paid for a newspaper ad all the way in Germany and basically said, if you can fly out to California, I'll hire you. Like just looking for any pastry chef in Germany. And my dad had enough money for a one-way ticket. And, he was young and like, why not? Right? Let's do this. So he moved to California, worked for, I think he was working for like one or two different bakeries, and then met my mom. And best story ever is that he tried to take my mom home that night he met her, and she said, no. You have my phone number. Call me tomorrow and I'll show you San Francisco. And that's what they did. They went around San Francisco. She showed him all the spots. So that's all it took. My dad was head over heels for her. So after a while, they decided to create two gremlin human beings that happened to be my brother and I. At one point, my dad, who was still working, he was working at a new place, and the owner, who would eventually become one of his best friends in life, really taught him a lot about running a business, not just being a pastry chef, but like running an actual food business and what it takes. And my mom was the first person to tell him, you're too good to work for someone. You're too good. We need to figure something else out. Like, you should do your own thing. And luckily, with the blessing and the support of the boss, who's now one of his good friends, they went in and started a business. So when my brother and I were like 5 and 7, my parents started their own little bakery and cafe. And for 26 years, they ran that business. And then that supported me getting through school, eventually going to San Jose State, where I got my fine arts degree. And I'll be honest with you, I was a terrible art student, horrible art student. I did 10 different forms of mediums. I had concentration in ceramics, but I had no idea what I was going to do with that. I was just flying by the seat of my pants. I originally went to San Jose State thinking I was going to be a Pixar storyboard artist.
Wow. I didn't know any of that.
Right. I was fully convinced. I told myself, because I was totally in love with Pixar movies. And I said, I'm going to be a storyboard artist. I'm going to get it. And then, not a lot of people know this, but the animation department in general at San Jose State, at least when I was going to college, it may have changed since, was so heavily impacted because not only was Pixar headhunting graduates for the animation department for whatever positions, but like LucasArts and like a couple other companies local in the Bay Area were just snatching people, right? So they were really only accepting actual talented artists into their animation department. And I was not one of those people.
Oh, no.
So I had to change my gear real quick. And I was like, all right, well, I'll get a concentration in ceramics and I guess I'll try to figure it out. But I didn't have a drive. I lost my drive in college. I think it was a maturity thing. I think if I would have taken a couple years before I went to college, I think I would have a better understanding and maturity to like actually try to figure out what I wanted to do. So then I had nothing for me post college, worked for my parents, worked for some terrible jobs. And then one day, one of my good high school friends was like, hey, my dad's a HR director at a civil engineer firm. You're pretty good with people. Would you want to do that? I said, sure. Now, mind you, this whole time, I'm still the same, comic books, video games, Dungeons and Dragons. Like that side of me has not changed. And a part of me is always like, man, how cool would it be to work in video games? Like that would be dope. But like I've not done anything to even get someone to notice me to want to be at a video game studio, let alone I don't even know how the sausage is made, right? Like I have no clue. And so I was working HR at the civil engineering firm, and it was a good job. They're great people and stuff. It's your typical kind of corporate job, but good people. And then Sledgehammer Games had a HR coordinator opening suddenly pop up. And I was like, oh, I could like work at a video game studio, but do a job that I know how to do and apply for the job. And I got it. So suddenly I was working in a gaming studio and I was like, this is awesome. Like, people don't wear suits. That was the first thing I realized. Like, I was wearing a suit and tie basically every day for work.
Wow.
And now people, like, I remember I went to my interview in my suit and tie, and the production director at the time, Mike Ciernick, showed up and he had a Leonard Skinner t-shirt and jeans on. And I was like, I am so overdressed for this interview. It's not even funny. And this was like the production director at the time. So yeah, that was great. I did that for about a year, and then there was a big shift, changes in the overall Activision HR recruiting structure, and a new opportunity arose that I had sort of chatted about before and see what's up. But suddenly there was opportunity for me to actually join on the production side. And I had really not the biggest clue what production was. I had like an understanding, but then I was introduced to these incredible people like Navarre and Knox and Nick Carraro. And suddenly I realized I was really, really like, I've landed where I've always wanted to land and not realize. This was a coaching role. This was a teacher supporting role for creative people in a video game where you could really still be that nerdy self and love what you're doing without having to be a genius in environment or a genius engineer. Like, all, you didn't have to be a dev person, but you could still be so heavily involved with the dev process. And it was great. And Melissa knows, I mean, we started off Call of Duty Vanguard, where I supported the Australians in a new Australian office. Shout out to Stalingrad Winter. That will be my favorite level forever. Live season right after that. And then from there, had a conversation about supporting our audio team for Modern Warfare 3. And that was really the big opportunity for me. So after doing sort of more production coordinator support, Call of Duty Vanguard, now I really stepped more into a bigger responsibility of being this big production support role, like essentially like their main producer for the audio department for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3. And a lot of learning curves, made a lot of mistakes in the beginning for sure. And you know, it was good for me because I need to get hit with those problems and really get, you know, understanding of what it takes to be a successful producer and learn how to lean on people, on experts that have been in the industry for a long time. I think a lot of what held me back is I was a little too confident that, oh, I can do this. It's like, no, you cannot know how to do this stuff. That's okay. You just need to find the right people to talk to, the right experts to teach you stuff. So I had a great audio director, great audio leads, great audio team. Leaned on them for a lot of information. And then, of course, with people like Melissa, it's just a stellar junior production crew. And we grinded that game out somehow, some way. You know, it's fun to laugh about now, but man, we had some very long days for sure.
We did.
But yeah, and that all leads up to, I guess now there was sort of a gap between then and now. I don't know if we're going to talk about that, but
we can get to it. I want to backtrack a bit because you gave us so much beautiful
I know. I'm
story.
sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I love that you started from like way back, my grandparents, to my birth, to school, to
The blessing
my first
that
job.
I am. You're welcome.
You gave us your journey, and then I really appreciate you sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. What I heard from your story is that this job at Sledgehammer Games was sort of your newspaper ad in Germany for a job in Palo Alto. It was this big shift for you.
Yeah, definitely. And it was funny because like you always think about, oh, how cool would it be to be doing this? But then when you're actually doing it, you're like, oh shit, I'm doing this. Like I did I don't know if you really take the time to appreciate that moment where you got into something that you kind of just dreamt about for a long time, right? Careers are funny. You know, I think people in our generation, we got so pushed in like high school and stuff that we needed to figure it out. We have to figure it out. What are we doing, right? What are we doing for the rest of your life? We were kids. We didn't know what the fuck we were eating that day, let alone figure out what our career was going to be. And I think now it's nice to be able to say, as much as I felt like a bit of a screw up coming out of college, I'm glad I screwed up a bunch because it allowed me to really be like, okay, what makes me happy? What do I like doing? Right. I think so many people they flew through, high school and college, totally focused on something that they decided way too early before they really matured and like appreciated life. And they're probably not happy right now because they're kind of realizing this shit sucks. Or maybe they are. I don't know. Right. I don't want to make judgment, but I've met so many people now that have changed careers. I mean, Melissa and I have talked to so many people on production site that their background had nothing to do with production. And I mean, I'm one of those people too, but there's people from all sorts of life in that world, right? It's good to kind of not know what you're doing because I think it helps you figure out what you want to do. And exactly, eventually you hit that newspaper ad and you go, oh shit, why not? Let's do this. So,
Yeah. I'm curious about this nerdy side of you that kind of drew you to figuring it out, because I think for me, that's what carried me as well. When did you know that, like, you were a true nerd, like that you loved D&D, that you loved Pokemon? Because I think for a long time when I was young, it was hard for me to like appreciate my nerdiness, I guess. Maybe because I was a girl, it was just like I knew I liked things a lot, but there wasn't a word for it when I was little.
mm,
It was just like I was in a bubble. I really liked reading books. I really liked watching shows and playing video games, but I never knew there was a community for it and that it was a job I could do until I was much older. So, like, when did you connect those dots?
I mean, I think I always knew in some sort of way. I mean, my mom told me that when I was a kid, I used to go on the like back deck and like do this whole imaginative play by myself thing with sound effects and everything. I used to think that no one can see me, and my mom was like, "I could see you from the kitchen window." I was like 5 feet from you. You just never looked up, and I was like, "Oh, that's great."
That's so cute.
So like I was always that kid in some sort of way, I think it's funny because like on one flip side, I was a kid at like 12:30 in the morning. I was 10 inches from the TV watching the new Gundam episode on Adult Swim because I didn't want to wake up my parents. And then during the daytime, I'm playing baseball, right, with a bunch of other guys and like trying to be cool that way. I think it's great that kind of like we said, we didn't really have those groups growing up. And now as adults, we've formed those groups and we've recognized that, oh shit, we all were the same person. We all were hiding our love for whatever. Right.
Mm.
Like, I mean, I played sports all through high school. I hung out with the athletes. But when I was home with my childhood best friend, we played Magic the Gathering. Right. Like, but my high school friends would never know that. They would roast my ass into oblivion. Right. And it's not like I tried to hide it. It was more that I just never brought it up. I was like, I don't think they would like this like I like this. Now I don't give a shit, of course. You know what I mean? Like look at all my you can't see it obviously on the podcast, but I've got a whole bunch of just random ass collectible stuff that I put in my office because it means something to me and I like it.
Yeah.
Right?
There's a beautiful Squirtle for the listeners.
Yes.
I know that Alex is a
Are
Squirtle
we gonna do this?
diehard,
Are we gonna do
but
this right now?
it's the wrong
We do this?
answer. The right answer is Bulbasaur
Oh my
for
god.
Gen 1.
Oh my god.
And Charizard fans, you're basic. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna start it.
Oh.
At me in the comments.
I
Find me. Fight me.
want to make it clear that was Melissa. Melissa. Okay. In case we didn't know.
Bulbasaur is literally number 1. All right.
All right, moving on because that's false. Um,
Our trailer is up right now for this podcast, and in it, Melissa says, "We're going to start some discourse and some drama." And I did not believe it until this moment.
It was obviously gonna be Pokemon drama.
oh my gosh. It's okay. I did a TED Talk presentation once, and it was basically taking each department and explaining how each department, like QA, production, audio, whatever, what would be their like gym leaders starting six.
I was
And
nervous.
it was, I don't think I concentrated so hard on a side project in my life. I was like really doing the research, like what would it represent? Like what are the Pokemon that could represent this group? I always want to go back and redo that and expand on it because it was hands down one of my favorite things I've ever done for sure.
I loved that presentation.
I was so proud of it. I really was. I appreciate you for saying that, by the way. Thank you.
It's really good.
Yeah.
If you listeners at home ever need a fun project to do for your coworkers, just like put your departments into Pokemon gyms. It's
There
super
you go.
fun.
I recommend if everyone's trying to do fun end of week thing for like whatever group you're in, we set up for the junior production staff, we did these 10 to 15 minute long TED Talks. So every week somebody was assigned the TED Talk. And it could be on anything. The main rules was has to be lighthearted and fun and something that we could all, enjoy, right? Because obviously there is a lot to talk about and there's a lot of things that are tough conversations. But the point of this was we got through the week, let's do something lighthearted and fun and enjoy it. So that just turned out so much better than I could imagine. There were some amazing TED Talks.
What pieces of your puzzle do you think like set you up to be production? Like, do you think HR helped you because you were a people person?
I think HR helped, but I have always liked helping people, and it came from there's a YMCA camp that's like 15 minutes from where I grew up. Shout out to YMCA Camp Jones Gulch. I love you. You're the greatest place on earth. I went there every summer as a kid because my parents with the business, they needed to drop my brother and I off somewhere and they couldn't afford daycare. So they're like, go to camp. I went there since I was 5 all the way till I was like 18, basically as old as you can be, right? And then as soon as I could, I worked there. And the YMCA was so good because as somebody like me, I came from what I like to call just kind of a generic, let's be honest, a generic white family. I had both my parents, I had my brother. We didn't really have a lot of, the same issues that a lot of other people grew up with. And being a part of the YMCA and working with people and realizing like there are a billion stories, billion different backgrounds of people from all walks of life. And I really got to learn how to listen, understand, and just appreciate people and then want to help people because of it. And once I got into the more corporate life, and with HR, it made sense, right? I could help people in a corporate setting, but it was easy for me to want to be there and support and be in a support role. And being in production is literally that. It's just you're supporting creative people and helping them be successful. So I've always been kind of in that role. I coached high school sports for a long time. I've always been some sort of support role. You know, as much as I look like I would be the barbarian in the group, I'd probably be the healer. Let's be honest. Like I'd be the healer. So
That's so cute.
Yes. I did see in my LinkedIn deep dive
deep dive.
that you were the male counselor of the year one time.
Yeah, that was probably one of my happiest moments I ever had in my life. When my first full summer being full-time staff at a place that has meant the absolute world to me. I had people that had been my counselors that were now supervisors at the camp basically make a speech at the end of the summer because at the end of every summer, and I don't know if they still do this, but they would vote on a female counselor and a male counselor for like counselor of the summer. And for the male counselor, the speech came from somebody who was the first person when I was 5 years old, was at the sign-in booth, and it was a counselor, Daniel Sarno, who introduced himself to my mom. And throughout the years I went there, he worked his way up the ranks and eventually became director of the camp. And he was the one that got to present to me the award for being the best male counselor of the summer. And it was like a full circle moment for me. And for him, it was like, this is the 5-year-old I got to watch grow up, for who, we're talking like, gosh, what's the math right now? Like 12, 10, over a decade, right? And it was, like I've never won championships or anything. Like I played a lot of sports. I've coached a lot of sports. I've never won championships or anything like that. I've gone close, right? But that was my World Cup trophy. That was my prime moment for me. So
That's so sweet.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. I just wanted to talk about like, oh, you're a counselor too. That's cool. Like, blah, blah, blah. But like that you were talking about the circularity of being able to receive that award from this person at this point in your life, like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's, he moved, right? And I haven't talked to him in a while, but like there's been a few times in my adult life that I've seen him, and he's, to me, he's always like that uncle I grew up with, right? And he's a fantastic person. He meant a lot to me and my brother growing up. And, just in general, like the camp was just a good, safe place to learn how to be a good person, right? I think people don't realize that if you take yourself out of, whatever situation you're in, right? You take these kids out of where they're coming from. It could be Richmond, it could be Palo Alto, it could be, South San Francisco, wherever, and you put them in a place where they all sleep in the same bed, they all eat the same meals, they all do the same activities. You realize real quick, like how much people can understand each other a lot better, right? Some kids get dropped off in buses, and some kids got dropped off in Mercedes, right? There's a big difference.
Yeah.
But while they were there, they were forced to have to like peel back everything else that kind of defined them and kind of just be themselves. And I think that was just watching that was like, this is so healthy. And I think more people need to do that. They need to send their kids off to places like that to allow them to be off in the woods and just be themselves and have fun with it. Right. I think that builds healthier adults.
Marv, would you agree as someone who studies this professionally?
Yes, I was like actually going to talk about it. Like, my background is in youth work. My framework for the programming that I do is positive youth development. And I always say, like, everyone needs positive youth development, even when you're an adult, because it's exactly what you're describing. Like, taking back all of these, like, shields, the armor, all of the things that we believe represent us, and helping somebody to find themselves. Like, that's like what kind of scaffolding that we don't really have in our lives that everyone could benefit from. And having a place where you were able to find that,
Yeah, I'm
amazing.
lucky.
That's what I want for every young person I've ever worked with.
And my mom says it to this day. She's like, it was just a summer camp, and we were just happy to find a place to drop you boys off, but we had no idea like how important this place would turn into for you guys. And we got lucky. We got really lucky. But I can't recommend enough to just people in general. Like, yeah, if you can find places where your kids can be kids and learn just the world around them without having, especially now more than ever, this technology, like this influence of social media and stuff, you gotta give them that time to grow and develop as people instead of just being influenced by so many things now.
Yeah. That's how we know Alex is a number one dad. Certified best
I
dad.
try. Some days I don't feel like it. It's tough.
Every day.
My
You
my
love
daughter,
young.
my daughter is a full-fledged teenager, and I'll tell you what, nothing will test your patience than a 3-year-old who has said no to you
Three-nager.
26 fucking times in a single day. And it's like, I love you so much. I would jump in front of a moving vehicle to save you. But if you don't eat your dinner, I swear to God, I'm gonna lose my mind. Like, I'll do anything for you. I'll take a bullet. But for the love of God, please put on your clothes. We have to get to daycare. Like, they will test you at the core. They love him so much, but my God, 3-year-olds are really they're that people. They are something else for sure.
Wait till she turns 4.
No, one year. Right now, my 9-year-old is still in the cute baby face. I'm like, please, a little bit longer, dude. I know what's about to happen with you. Just a little longer. Just a little longer. Oh my God.
I know we're almost at an hour, and I want to take some time to hit, I think, like the elephant in the room for you, Alex, is you were part of probably one of the most brutal things I've experienced in my adult life, which was layoffs at Activision. And it's not something everyone's unfamiliar with in the industry. It's happening to a lot of people in animation and gaming.
Yeah, I'll tell how my morning went, and hopefully I don't go too long because this may need more than 10 minutes. I'm gonna be honest with you. So I was on paternity leave. My son had just been born. He was 3 weeks old. And that morning, we were preparing to leave to fly back to California because my wife's grandfather had passed away. And he meant a lot to my wife. And of course, to me, right? Um, I was sitting at the dinner table. My daughter was eating her breakfast, and I was just on my phone. And I got a text from my brother. My brother has seen a tweet from, I think it was Charlie Intel. And it was the leaked email that was from Phil Spencer saying that, 1,900 jobs to become redundant. And he texted me that tweet. He said, "Have you seen this?" Mind you, I've turned off all my work stuff, right? I'm not looking at Slack. And I said, "I have not." So I turn on my Slack, and my Slack is literally just dumpster fire, just a complete dumpster fire. Everyone's in panic mode. And I go to my email and I read this email, and I'm like you said, it was hard for me to process the words I was reading. Like, we were mid live season, like going to season 3. I had just had a conversation with my new manager at the time about putting in for a possible promotion. And we had figured out how he was going to cover for me, and I'll be back in March, and da da da. And now I'm looking at this. I'm like, am I about to be laid off? there's no way I'm going to be on paternity leave. I'm about to lose my fucking job. There's no world I live in that I thought this was about to happen. We had purposely not hired anyone for over a year during this development cycle for Modern Warfare 3 because we wanted to prevent this very thing. And we were understaffed, we were overworked, and we said, we'll do it. And now I'm reading this email, and it's not like a couple hundred. This is almost 2,000 people. 2,000 people were about to lose their jobs. And, my wife comes downstairs with the baby, and I'm like, they're about to do a layoff. And she's like, what do you mean we're doing it? They're about to lay off people, like almost 2,000 people. And there's just kind of like this pause. And we both are like, okay, look, we can't stress about this right now until we know. Like, we need to get on a plane to go to a funeral. Like, there's a lot going on this morning. And I'm pulling up to the airport, and my wife is getting the kids out and going in line to get the tickets. And I'm going to go put the car away, right? And I get the email that says, Zoom link must join, from like some HR person. I was like, holy shit. I am actually going to get laid off while I'm on paternity leave, about to go on a flight to a funeral. This is actually happening right now. And while I was in line for security, I watched the first 5 minutes of the Zoom call, and someone who I had never met in my life, next to our studio head at the time, and, I forget who else was on the call, I'll be honest with you, said, if you're on this call, your job has been deemed redundant, or whatever fucking verbiage they use. I turned off my Zoom. Like, I'm not going to sit here for 30 minutes and listen to this. Right. And the first person I called was my brother, because I'm like, and I told him, I said, okay, I need to tell my parents, because, parents will panic. Right. And, and so my wife and I agreed, we're like, okay, let's focus on, being for her family for this funeral, for this weekend. And when we get back on Monday, we'll let's get at it. Right. So it's been 9 months now of me being unemployed. And I have learned more about the importance of finding your happiness outside your career than I could ever have understood in the 5 years, almost 5 years I worked at Sludge. In my mind, I had convinced myself I would get a new job by the time the severance payments were up. I told myself there's no world that I'm not going to land a new job. I have put out 2 AAA games in a matter of 4 years, basically. I have experience across multiple departments, and I basically was the sole production support for an entire department for this last project. And how do I not get a job? I am that guy, right? I'm fully convinced of myself. And then I didn't get a job. And the severance wrapped up, and I'm seeing all these things about people who have taken over a year to get a job. And that's when the anxiety and the depression started really kicking in. Yeah. And I was struggling. I was struggling. And I am so lucky to have the best wife in the world who day in, day out, like this entire time has never made a single, and not that she would, but she's never made a single insulting comment at all over the fact that I have not found a job. She has only been supportive. She has only been my biggest rock and my cheerleader. And I don't know how well I would be doing without having somebody like that in my life. Like, don't get me wrong, my family has checked in on me constantly, right? But to have a partner in life that is just like, we're gonna get through this just remind you every day, we're gonna get through this. Like, I cannot stress enough how lucky I am I had that. And I know other people may not have that. And I feel terrible because like this is such a as January went on and we went through February, this 2,000 turned to 6,000, turned to 8,000, turned to 10,000, right? Like now this domino effect has occurred, and there's 10,000 people like me who have no idea what we're going to do now because there's not 10,000 jobs for us in the gaming industry. So now I've hit this wall where all my self-worth, I'm realizing I put so much in my career about who I am as a person. And now I'm feeling like I can't provide for my family. Like I'm failing as like a husband, as a father, right? I'm not bringing a paycheck home. What am I doing, right? And it's just like I can feel myself starting to spiral a little bit, right? But I'm having this hopeful moment, right? I'm having interviews. I'm trying to get to next levels, like stuff like that. And I remember when it really hit me like a rock. I had made to final rounds. I won't name the studio, but I've made it final rounds with the studio, and they were fantastic. They were super great to me. The recruiter was great. Like the whole process was amazing. It was a well impacted studio. I knew that going into it, but I was feeling good. I was feeling confident. I was having great interviews, and I got done with the final rounds. And you wait a couple days, and the recruiter called me, and he told me, I don't know how else to put this, but there was no negative feedback from the interviews. You did great. But at the end of the day, they're going to go with someone who just has more experience. So I had done everything right. There was no feedback from me, and I still didn't get the job. And for somebody like me, who most of my life, right? You work hard, you do your homework, you put in the effort, you should get what you want, right? Like I was learning from being, a kind of a screw up of a student in college. Now as an adult, I'm like, yeah, if I bust my ass, I should get this, right? But now I'm being told I've done everything right, but I still don't get the job. And that's when it hit me. And I remember like that weekend our kids were sick and we were like taking care of them, and it was just like back to back stuff. And it was like that Sunday night I was sitting with my wife and I was like, I can feel it. And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, I can feel the depression. Like I could feel the weight on my head right now. Like I think I need like help. I think I need help, right? And so I went back to therapy, and that was the best decision I made. It was to go back to therapy. And Dr. Hill, shout out Dr. Hill. I don't know if you ever hear this podcast, but you're amazing. We really worked on how to find like my value and my excitement in things and my passion in things without stapling that to just having a career, right? And so, working on pulling myself out of depression and making myself happy and not depending on the fact that if I have a job or not has been the best thing for me. I feel like I've grown because of that, and realized that like even though I am still unemployed and even though I'm still very much in the hunt, I can be happy about things in my life. I can be a good dad and a good father and be passionate about things and, really not depend on the fact of just having a career to make me happy. Right.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of work though. And I think the frustrating part in all this is this was such an easy, simple decision for so many of these studios. And it's the same thing in the animation world and everything that's going on with all these entertainment business. It's so easy for these people who are in these seats and their job is to make money and they're good at it, but they're not creative. They're not creative people. They don't understand the human aspect that comes with anything entertaining, right?
Mm.
It was so easy for them to kind of for Xbox to go around and shake hands and everyone be excited for them. And after that was all done, be like, all right, anyway, we want to make sure we still hit $1 billion in revenue. So we have to lay off a bunch of people. Done. That's the mind blowing thing to me. And what took so long for me to like, I had to work through that anger because it was like, I didn't even get a chance to defend myself. It was just done. It was done. And it was done by people who don't understand the human aspect of these industries at all. Right. Phil Spencer would never know that I've gone through horrible anxiety and depression from being laid off 9 months ago. And he probably won't care. Right. It's not his job to care. It's his job to make Xbox as much money as possible, period. And I think it's just that the whole process has been almost surreal, right? The entire industry got flipped on its head. And I'm lucky because I've had the support I've had, but I can't say that people are getting the support like I'm getting, right? Or going through the process I'm going to heal ourselves and to really find that separate happiness that is outside of having that job, right? So, but yeah, that's my story with the wonderful layoffs. I mean, I would still be at Sledge probably doing what I'm doing, right? Getting through the rest of this game, but I was never given that choice, you know? So I've learned a lot of hard lessons. Uh, I think I have to just learn to move on and understand that I will never fully understand why the fuck the industry decided to gut their most important resource, which was its people, its devs. Why? Right? So
We'll never know. And thank you for sharing, because I know that's not easy to relive, like especially going back to that day. So thank you for being vulnerable with us and sharing how hard it's been. Because I know so many people are going through the same thing, and it might be helpful to hear someone else's story and how you're healing and how you're getting through it. And maybe it'll help them too. And that's
if there is
something.
somebody that's listening to this and is going through the same shit that I'm going through, the best advice I can get is step back, step away, and really focus on finding something to look forward to. That's something from therapy that's really helped me. Find something to look forward to, whatever that is, for whatever reason. Like even little things, like, and I'll do my plug later in your episode, but like I'm doing a little bit of content creation on the side, and it's hard. I don't know what I'm doing. It's fucking difficult, but it's something fun and something forward to look towards, right? Making sure to maintain my physical health, right? Going to the gym, just trying to be supportive of my wife and her amazing career. Like find things to look forward to.
Yeah. It's not an easy time to do this job. And there's no right way. Sorry, didn't mean to do that. There's not one right way to get a job right now or to keep your job. It doesn't mean anything to say you've worked at X studio for X amount of years. And something that's really stuck with me was when I went to the rally for the Animation Guild a few months ago. Adam Conover was speaking, and he posts this all the time because it is a really powerful thing. He said it's these studios and these execs will say, like, we need to get their respect. We don't need to get their respect. They don't deserve our respect, you know? So that's something that stuck with me. I'm really carrying it forward of like, they don't deserve our respect because the way they look at us is definitely that we're less than. So I'm going to always remember that when I think about these layoffs happening. Is like, they don't deserve our respect. So why do we ask for it? Let's just demand what we deserve, which is like better pay and stop laying us off en masse.
I will always love the gaming industry. You know, I'm going to try to get back into it. Like that's what I've been trying to do. But I have a different mindset now going into it, right? I have to look at it as like, I'm not trying to win over anybody's favor at this point. I'm going to, whoever is a lucky studio to take me on, I guarantee you I will bust my ass for you. But I need you to understand that I'm going to also make sure to look out for myself and take care of myself, right? Because again, if I've learned anything, it doesn't matter how long I've been loyal to you, right? You could just easily send me to the side. And that harsh reality check is like, okay, fine. You take care of me, I'll take care of you. But from that point on, I don't need your top dog to look at me and to give me praise. I don't need that. I have the praise I need in life. I have my family, I have my wife, I have my kids, right? My career, I will 100% put my, whatever effort I can put into, because I'm not going to say I'm a sloppy worker. I'm a hard worker, but I don't need the respect from high executives to make me happy anymore. You know what I mean? I have it exactly where I need it to be.
Yeah. You know your worth because you're awesome.
Know your worth.
I really loved what you were saying about finding something to hope for. And I'm just curious, like, what is that looking like for you? What are you hoping for?
Like, it's more of like finding something to be passionate about, right? And for me, one of the things I'm working on is like finding a community to look forward to. Because I moved up to Washington with my wife, so a lot of my friends are still back in California, and working on finding places that you could find people to relate to and really spend quality time with. That's something you can look forward to, right? And these could be any kind of groups, like they could be Magic the Gathering Commander Deck nights on Wednesday nights, or they can be bike riding groups on the weekends and stuff like that. It's you know it's finding communities or finding something you can be passionate about, and that idea of like, oh, I have something to like work on this week or look forward to, or like hang out with. Because I think for the first couple months being unemployed and being in a place where I don't really have any of my friends, it's like I drop the kids off and then I'm stewing in my own depression at home, right? That's not good. And you're job hunting, and it's like doom scrolling on LinkedIn, and you're like, this is great. More people got laid off. Like, holy shit. So that was something my therapist really worked on with me, was like, your worth is not attached to the layoff. Your worth is whatever passion and love you have in your life. Like you can change that for yourself. You just got to find it, right? We got to work towards it.
Yeah. That's great. I'm excited to see what your passion takes you to next. Whatever studio hires you will be so lucky to have you.
I mean, I'm
Because
ready.
you're phenomenal. And I'm sure there's going to be a cool community out there that you'll find. I wish I was there because I miss you. But
I know. I miss you too.
we never even met in person, I don't think, which is kind of crazy to
No,
think
which
about.
crazy to think that we worked for years together, literally just for webcams. But I'm pretty sure I'm like 8 feet taller than you, if I'm not correct. So
I
I don't know if
believe
I
that.
would find you in the crowd. I'd just be like, "Where's Melissa? Melissa, Marco, Marco."
And is there anything you'd like to plug
Oh
for the
my God,
people?
thanks. Yeah, so my creative outlet that I'm working on through therapy, you can search it at Bearded Takes. That's BeardedTakes. That's on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Right now, it's mostly football and dumb stuff. I'm trying to get more creative with it, but I'm learning a lot. Content creation takes a lot of planning, effort, editing, time, but it's good. Keeps me busy. So
The editing. That's the hard part.
the editing is the hardest part. I can film all day. Then I gotta sit there and take this 30-minute film and break it down into something digestible. That is hard.
Well, everyone should follow Alex. I don't know anything about football, but your son is there and he's very cute.
He is in one of my videos, and that might be my most viewed video right now. And I'm pretty sure people just watch it on mute because they just watch him, which is fine. It's fine. It's fine. He's cute. He's cute. He's so fucking cute. Like, not even saying this as his parent, he is fucking cute. He's adorable.
He's a big baby too. Like,
He is 9 months old and he is 26 pounds, which, in case people don't know how the scale works in the US of A, that puts him above 99%.
Above.
Above,
he's a
as in
big
greater
boy.
than. He's a chunky bar.
Big baby.
Yep. That's my boy. I'm proud of him. So
He's also gonna be tall. He's gonna be taller than me pretty soon. I bet.
he might already be, honestly. He's standing up now. He's pulling stuff up and standing.
Wow.
It's so funny because he gets so proud of himself. He puts on the biggest fucking smile. It's so funny. And he looks at you and then he's like, oh, gravity. Oh shit. And like falls over. And it's like,
Amazing.
yep, no, that comes with the whole thing, bud. You gotta learn how to fight gravity. So
Every day.
every day, every day. Some days you just lay on the floor, you go, you win gravity. I don't give a shit anymore. Fuck you.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Alex. This has
Oh,
been
thank you guys.
delightful.
Yes, no, this is awesome. And I'm so glad you guys are doing this because this is another thing, right? A podcast, a creative outlet. It's good for us to do these conversations and to do these things that make us laugh or have fun or something outside of what we would be comfortable with. We got to do more of that stuff. I think the more people do uncomfortable things, the more confident they're going to be in themselves. We need to build our confidence as entertainment folks. We're going through a lot of shit right now. You know what I mean? We're getting shit on by really rich and powerful people that should not be doing this to us. So we got to build our confidence. We got to build up who we are and take back our kind of love and happiness of things, right? What makes us love entertainment, right? What got us into in the first place. So we got to take that back.
So true. Thank you,
I
Alex.
will definitely be keeping that on the mind as we go forward with other interviews.
Yeah.
Why do we love entertainment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why did we become nerds?
Nerd.
Mm.
Nerd. Thank you, Alex. Have a
Thank you.
lovely evening. It was so nice to talk to you. Miss
It was
you.
great meeting you.
Great meeting you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, thanks for Alex for coming on, and thank you all for listening. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out Bearded Takes.
Yes. This episode has been edited, produced, written by Melissa Manuel and Marv from Metawaginyaga. Thank you so much for joining us.
Why do you say written by? It makes it sound like we have a script. We don't have a script. We're unscripted.